Glad to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, if you remember a few weeks ago, we had brought to you a story from Tamil Nadu of a scam that had been exposed there, panning across districts. A scam that was robbing government's money meant for government welfare schemes by creating fake accounts, taking the money away from legitimate beneficiaries, and this money was being pocketed by middlemen, by government officials. A similar scam has now been exposed by the Indian Express in the state of Jharkhand. And this is even worse. In fact, viewers, tonight what I tell you is honestly the worst kind of scam that you can imagine. Because this is a scam where money, government welfare fund, meant to help the poor children with their education is being stolen, is being siphoned off. Poor people in the state of Jharkhand who are supposed to get scholarship money for their children from the state are completely in darkness or sometimes given a little bit of money and the rest is being pocketed by the bank staff, by the middlemen, by the schools and the school officials and government employees. They have all colluded to siphon off money meant for poor students in the state of Jharkhand. And this is really sad. Under the direct benefit transfer system, where accounts are supposed to be verified using Aadhaar details, documents for eligibility under a scheme, these set of people have colluded to create bank accounts, mislead the poor people, take their documents, take their identities, take their fingerprints, and then pocket the money. Now, as Indian Express goes on to reveal more and more details, the Jharkhand government has taken note of this case and has ordered an investigation. Tonight on the show, we are going to tell you how funds for the minority students were illegally diverted, who all are involved, and if it can happen in the state of Jharkhand for a scholarship scheme, if it can happen in the state of Tamil Nadu, if it can happen in the state of Maharashtra for various schemes. In Tamil Nadu, it was the PM Kisan Yojana where money was being siphoned off and poor farmers who should be getting that money were being robbed of this welfare benefit. If it can happen in 3 different states, in 3 different kinds of schemes, what is to say, viewers, that this is not happening at a national level? That every year, crores of our taxpayers' money that we give to the government is not being siphoned off by a nexus of corrupt bank officials, schools, government bureaucrats, and others involved, including those who provide the technology, who have access to sensitive information, our information, our identification documents, our fingerprints and biometrics. If it can happen in 3 different parts of the country, completely far away from each other, in completely different schemes, shouldn't this be ringing a national alarm that our direct benefit transfer schemes, the entire system, using the Aadhaar is not foolproof just because the money is directly going into the bank account of a poor man, just because a unique identification number is being put in as part of the documentation, doesn't mean anymore, viewers, that the scheme is working properly on ground and the correct beneficiaries are getting this money. And tonight, I believe that each state government needs to wake up, and the central government, and launch a nationwide investigation. If there was ever a time for our investigative agencies who look into financial fraud, to wake up and swing into quick action and prompt action and take the initiative, it has to be these scams. What can be worse than robbing the Kisan of his money? What can be worse than robbing a poor child in a state like Jharkhand of the option of getting a scholarship and good education? Nothing. Let me say good evening to the panelists who are joining us on this show right now. Avani Kapoor, fellow at the Center for Policy Research and director of the Accountability Initiative, joins us this evening. Sudesh Sharma, spokesperson for the BJP. Professor Gaurav Vallabh, national spokesperson for the Congress Party. Professor Ravi Srivastava, director for the Center for Employment Studies, Institute for Human Development in Delhi. Thank you to all of you. But first up, if I can please go across to Abhishek Angad. Abhishek is a correspondent with the Indian Express in Jharkhand and has done this exhaustive investigation for the newspaper. Abhishek, if you can explain to our viewers more about the extent of collusion, and who all are involved, what did you find?
Yeah, so we had gotten a lead initially that, are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, absolutely, loud and clear.
Okay, so we have gotten a lead initially that some students were not getting some money or initially getting half of the amount meant for them. So when we went to the ground, and what we found was that this scam is huge. What happens is there is a nexus of school owners, middlemen, bank correspondents, and possibly government employees who allegedly they collude to dupe poor students and the families of the beneficiaries of this pre-matric centrally funded scholarship scheme. This was our investigation. What has been found? So initially, what we found was the extent is such that it has layers and layers of corruption. In my opinion, it's bottoms up. So if we say there are X number of blocks in Jharkhand, so we found there are X number of gangs that are operating in each block of Jharkhand. Or possibly they may have some common trail, but several people came to know about these schemes. Let's say there are schools who never knew about this fact that their name is in the National Scholarship Portal list. There are some school owners who knew that their names have come in the portal, but they didn't know. But they're completely saying these are not our students. So imagine the extent of it that there is a school with 3 rooms and claiming that there are only 80 students studying in that school, and there are like 324 students shown as hostelers. And you get the scholarship class 1 to 4, where you get rupees 1,000 rupees, and then 6 to 10, where you get 5,700 rupees a year if you are a day scholar, and rupees 10,700 if you're a hosteler. Now this is a big area where the scam happens. Now schools are shown that they are residential schools. Also the fake students are brought in. So the entire money that goes into the pocket of middlemen or the banking correspondents or the officials, it's not that the money is not going to the people. So when we cross-verified, they are, let's say one of the beneficiaries is 47-year-old wife of a tailor. The another beneficiary is a 28-year-old housewife. What they don't know is that this is particularly meant for students. What they are told is that this is a charity which is coming from Saudi Arabia. Now here is another aspect of this, the entire scam. These are poor people, these are farmers, these are masons, these are laborers. They don't know anything about this, and also this lockdown has hit them hard. And initially in the last year also the economy was, if they're not doing good, so they're happy getting, even if they get 5,000 rupees or 2,500 rupees a year, because that means a lot. So these poor people actually don't know that this is basically a scholarship meant for students. They are being lured into this scheme by middlemen, telling that these are money from the Saudi Arabia. Now here the major problem is that unawareness. The government has not put in enough effort to make people aware. This was typically meant to raise the awareness, to raise the financial burden, to ease the financial burden of the minority households. But they are not aware. that is their right, that if a household earns less than 1 lakh per annum and the student gets 50% of the marks in their class
So,
exams, so they're eligible for it, but they're not aware.
right. So, Abhishek, just a couple of clarifications. So, for example, for our
Yeah.
viewers to understand, the scheme, like you said, for class 1 to 5 students, they would get about 1,000 rupees. For class 6 to 10 students staying in hostels, they would get about 10,700 rupees. You are saying that there are people in whose name these accounts were opened and who were registered, who do get some amount. They obviously don't get the full amount. They're also not perhaps eligible for this scheme itself and unaware that there is a scam here. They're just being told that you're going to get some money and you share the rest of the money with us, and they don't know what this whole thing is about. Are there also completely fake, non-existent entities that have been created? If there's a school that has 80 children but 300 hostel students are being shown, are these all fake identities, non-existent people completely?
No. These are not non-existent people, because here is direct benefit transfer that's involved. You need to have an account number.
Correct.
To get the amount. So there has to be some person there. So what they do is, these middlemen, what they'll do is they'll just lure in some innocent housewife saying that you'll get some money from Saudi Arabia, but there is a deal. You'll get 10,700. Half the amount is mine. So that's how that happened. But what is intriguing is how do they fudge the Aadhaar data in while they enter the details in the National Scholarship Portal? Because the Aadhaar data, of course, mention their birth date. So here the question rises about the verification process. How does the state government verify these applications?
Okay, fair enough. So let's take it point by point. And Abhishek, because you have investigated this story, do feel free to come in the conversation wherever you feel there is a need to make a point. But let me take this across to our other panelists as well. Mr. Sudesh Verma, this is concerning at multiple levels. There are checks and balances, they should be there in the system. But now, separately in Maharashtra, in Tamil Nadu and Jharkhand, we are finding that money that's meant for poor people is going elsewhere.
Yes, you are right, and whatever has happened is very bad, should be condemned. Proper investigation has to take place. The guilty, whosoever he is, whichever ideological affiliation, they should be punished with the strongest punishment possible under the law. You see, you spoke about DBT. DBT is something, if you see in the context of what late Rajiv Gandhi said, when he was the Prime Minister, that I send you 1 rupee, only 15 paisa reaches you, and the rest of the money is pocket. In that context, if you see DBT, then many people who have got their account through Jan Dhan Yojana and mobile system and this GAN scheme, so they are able to get the entire money which is meant for them. So that is the basis of Aadhaar. Some people have said whatever has happened in Jharkhand particularly, or other states also, it's a case of cheating, isn't it? So one who has cheated the system needs to be punished. It doesn't mean that Aadhaar itself is wrong. No, not at all, because there is, as rightly said by the reporter who unearthed this scam, you need to have iris data, you need to have fingerprints, and you need to have the addresses. So Aadhaar in that way is foolproof. But yes, people were not aware. I entirely agree that there was need for larger awareness so that, such unscrupulous elements of the society just don't go and cheat people in this way. This is a problem of that, and I'm sure that the present government, whosoever is in power, should be investigating it and should reach the culprit.
No, you are absolutely right. In fact, what you're saying, let me just highlight this as well, Mr. Sudesh Verma, to our viewers. This is not a conversation or a story that we are highlighting to say that direct benefit transfer scheme or system is broken or wrong or should be done away with. We are not even saying that Aadhaar at this point needs to be done away with. We're simply saying that a system that we trust and think has the least amount of inefficiencies has found ways and loopholes for corruption, has found ways for stealing legitimate money, taxpayers' money meant for the poor, and it's going elsewhere. And if it can happen in 1 part or 2 parts or 3 parts, it's perhaps happening elsewhere, and a deeper investigation is needed into that, because Professor Gaurav Vallabh, fact of the matter is direct benefit transfer was touted and is supposed to help us in plugging the gaps and leakages. That's the whole point. But if it's still not reading the right people, then some overhauling may be required.
Tanya, the DBT, the direct benefit transfer under the Modi government, is taking the shape of DSF, that is direct siphoning of funds. And it is not one example. In your introductory remark, 2017 Maharashtra, in Tamil Nadu, in PM Kisan, this is the third example where DBT is used as DSF, that is direct siphoning of the funds. Now, Prime Minister, during the last address from the Lal Killa also, had highlighted the JAM, that is Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile. It means JAM Trinity is not working. It means for all welfare schemes under the Modi government, the money is utilized like this. And I had a very simple 2-3 questions. What happened to the IT security when these type of DBTs were done? Why they were not linked with the Aadhaar before transferring the funds? And when they are linked with the Aadhaar, how come a tribal boy is shown as a Parsi? How come a woman is told that money is coming from Saudi? How can it is possible? The second issue, which is a bigger issue, can you think a bigger crime than this, that you are not giving a small scholarship to a student who deserves, and you are eating that scholarship? You are not giving the small amount of fund which a farmer of our country, the Annadata, deserve, and you are stealing from them. Who are those people? As Abhishek had pointed out, bank staff, yes. Middlemen, yes. Government employees, whose governments were there at that point of time, who were ruling that particular state, who were the minister at that particular point of time. In Jharkhand State Minority Finance Development Corporation, who was the chairperson, who was aware of these things? Why no action was taken? Because, Tanya, you will be surprised that in the last BJP ruled government in Jharkhand, this is the same government who used to say that hamara bandh chuhe kha gaye. That is what the chief minister used to say. This is the same government who used to spend 1,000 crore in flying of elephants. जो Momentum Jharkhand scheme जो fair हुआ, the elephants were flew, 1,000 crore was spent in that. So I want to know that direct, and just last point, sentence, then I will conclude. Tanya, I want to know that who are the people? There should be a thorough investigation.
Correct.
And till the time that thorough investigation is not there, Prime Minister should come out and say that whatever I assured the country regarding JAM was false. I was lying. There was no concrete arrangement like that.
1 minute, please. Yes. I'm coming back to you only, Mr. Sudesh Verma. Firstly, I think Professor Gaurav Vallabh, see, it's been so long since you came on one of my debates, you've forgotten my name. Tanvi, not Tanya. So you should come more often on these conversations.
I'm sorry. I'm extremely sorry.
The other point, no, it's okay. That's not a problem. The other point, the bureaucrats corrupt, if they are corrupt, would perhaps continue to be so, irrespective of which party is in power. We don't know for how long this is continued, under whose tenure. But yes, an investigation is required to find those things out. I have 2 more panelists who are yet to speak, but very quickly, Sudesh Verma, please do respond before I go to our other 2 experts.
You see, I compliment Abhishek, Angad for doing such a good investigation that will help in making the system better. Unlike Gaurav Vallabh, we are not blinded by politics. You see, politics is besides the point. If you want to do politics, you are free to do it. We want to plug the loophole. DBT was brought as a process to plug the loophole. And if someone has cheated the system, action should be taken, isn't it? If we try to protect them, but if you are saying, no, what they did is correct, then you can blame us. In that way, I blame for the entire police system. Most of the problems in this country happens because there is no check and balance in the police system. So we have to find out in this crisis that why the poor people for whom these schemes were there did not get the benefit. Who are the people who siphoned off the funds? Was it a systematic way through which some corrupt people gathered together and the government was not aware? I'm saying wherever the buck stops, investigation should be done, a better system should be evolved. That is what that is what the purpose of governance is. That is why people elect different leaders. It's not a blame game.
Okay.
There is a government that is supported. Gaurav Valla is part of that. Let them do it.
Yeah.
Let them do the investigation. Let them reach the truth. Whosoever is guilty, punished. We will not protect anyone. They need to be punished if they have done something wrong.
Yes, okay, fair enough. Let me bring in our experts now. Professor Ravi Srivastava, I want to start with you. DBT was touted as, one of those landmark changes in the system that would ensure that the benefit goes to the right person and there are no leakages. Clearly now, in multiple examples we've seen, it's still not foolproof. How do we go about fixing this problem?
First thing is to recognize very clearly that the DBT system is both subject to systematic corruption and to systemic inefficiencies. So the picture that we've often had that you put a veil over the whole exercise of distribution through a computer or through a system called the DBT, and corruption somehow disappears or the inefficiencies in the system disappear is a complete fabrication. If you look at the DBT system, for example, I have been doing social surveys on the ground for over 4.5 decades, and I have seen very closely how systemic corruption happens at the ground level in every scheme. Our learned speaker from the BJP talked about Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. During his time, there was a mystique about the computer. The last few years, there is this mystique and veil about the DBT. The DBT hides as much as it reveals in terms of systematic corruption and systemic inefficiencies. And the first point is to recognize this. The corruption occurs at first at the point of verification, and then at the various point at which checks are built into this, are supposed to be built into the system. Because we don't have any physical verification or verification of documents is the first point, where you can see systemic corruption happening, and you see this happening in all schemes, whether it is the scholarship scheme or whether it is the largest scheme, the Manrega scheme, false muster rolls, false verification of the work that happens. It begins from there. In the scholarship scheme, you have seen it how it happens. So in the farmer scheme, you've talked about Tamil Nadu. And you've seen the various agents who are involved. They're from the ground level upwards. Not only the ground level brokers, the school level intermediaries, the bureaucrats, but also the data system, the people who are involved with the management of the data system, as in Tamil Nadu. The final thing is when you see a pattern, Abhishek has done a wonderful story, but he said this is decentralized. Whenever there is a pattern across decentralized corruption, it's actually a systemic corruption. And it's no longer decentralized, because the systemic corruption is definitely permeating somewhere near the top or to the top. So this argument that because it is decentralized and because decentralized agents are involved, no. There is a systemic pattern, whether it is Manrega, and once the systemic pattern is clear to everyone, then there is somebody at the top also who is gaining from the systemic corruption. Please be clear about it. It's just not the block offices, not just the Rojgar Sevaks, not just the brokers, not just the banking correspondents or the school clerks or the school principals. A great deal more people are involved. So the first thing is to recognize that systematic corruption exists within this system called the DBT. The same kinds of people are involved in, and additional some new agents have come into existence within the IT system which create this veil, who are now involved in this corruption. But there are also issues of systemic inefficiency,
right,
which we would also be talking about. How poor people are never able to trace the transfers that never happened to them.
Right.
How Aadhaar authentication fails. And it happens, more often in states like Jharkhand than in other states. And if you add all this together, then DBT is an interesting story of the way we are harnessing the power of technology, but it's still a story of how inefficiencies and corruption can happen in a system which is supposed to otherwise deliver well.
Yes, and one aspect that Abhishek also raised, and Avni, maybe you can come in on that, is also lack of awareness. In most of these cases, people don't know what they can avail as benefit. They are given a story, they believe they're perhaps just happy, whatever meager amount they're getting, and they go along with this. And that's other big problem that perhaps needs to be addressed by our governments.
Completely, Tanvi, and I think that I would just want to reiterate what Professor Srivastava also said. I think Abhishek's story, which is not new to many researchers like us, is that technology, Aadhaar, and DBT aren't a panacea, and they don't function without a larger political economy context as well. And I think that there are three factors that often aren't given as much due. One of which is, of course, awareness. Most of the welfare architecture is designed for people who are the poorest of the poor. But often there isn't enough effort made to ensure that information is provided to them as well. So there's a great information asymmetry, which DBT, of course, and NOC and technology solve. That's where you actually require boots on the ground and ensuring that people know what is due to them, what entitlements are they eligible to. At the same time, I think one of the things that technology has done, and it is often a challenge, is that without having adequate grievance redressal mechanisms in place, it can also be in some ways alienating. And that comes back to your point on awareness. Many years ago, this was 10 years ago, where when we were doing some field work in a state, we found that often forget people, even schools, even Anganwadi centers don't know when money comes to them, what kind of money they are entitled to, and even when they get money into their accounts, they don't actually fully have awareness of what it's meant to be used for. And in the absence of having a proper grievance redressal mechanism or even just proper reporting and accountability mechanisms, what ends up happening is that I, as an Anganwadi teacher, I, as a parent, I, as a student, I don't know who to go to even ask that question. Because if I go to the person or level just above me, when it's a direct benefit transfer, they themselves often don't have that kind of information. I wanted to just say one more thing when it comes to DBT. I think if you look at the DBT portal alone, in 2021, you have over 2 lakh crores that was sent via DBT across 51 ministries, and there's some 351 schemes, of which I think over 50 of them are just in the form of scholarships. But I think too much focus of ours has been on trying to weed out corruption and leakage. But in a poor country like India, where welfare is often a means of survival, I think the exclusion aspect is even bigger than, are we including the wrong people, or are the people who are most deserving getting their due? And I think that second part of the question, somehow we've forgotten it. Even the DBT portal talks about savings. We may have saved money because we've not given it to the wrong person, but what about all the people who were meant to get their PDS ration, meant to get their pensions, meant to get their scholarships, but haven't been able to get it? So when we think of targeting, I think that exclusion part has also been excluded to a large degree as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And not just in one, in many other schemes. This is an overarching problem that Avni Kapoor is talking about. I just want to go back to this case to highlight the levels at where breach has happened. And Abhishek, maybe you can come in more on that. It starts from a school where obviously the school's information, their login ID, their own system would have been breached and compromised. Then obviously there is the Aadhaar information. I mean, at the end of the day, if a 37-year-old tailor is getting the benefit of a scheme which is meant for a 12-year-old kid, then there is something wrong at the Aadhaar data level. If you can take us through those various aspects where collusion and corruption has breached perhaps a safety check that should have been there.
Yeah, so the system is very much right in the place. Here, what you need to do is, last year or a year prior to that, a new rule was made that each school who have to apply for the scholarship, they have to get a KYC done at the district welfare officer. Now, the institute have to appoint a nodal officer. They have to go and submit a document, their own Aadhaar card, saying that, look, I am the nodal officer of this institute and I need to get a user ID and password for my institute where my students will fill the form. Now, here is the second part. The problem is that the students are unaware. So it's the middlemen or the school owners who are filling their form. Now, so that's one. So the district, now in one of the instances that we have also reported today, a school owner, when this scam came out, the school owner went to the district welfare officers asking for the application that he had put. What he saw was alarming. his original phone number was cut through, and there was someone else's phone number was put there. Now the district welfare officer is telling that particular school owner that this is a server error. Now tell me that if it's a server error, can that happen physically in a paper? How come this is a server error? So of course, it seems like that the district welfare officer, who are one of the most important character in the entire scam, was colluding with the middlemen. Now that is part one. Now part two is the state nodal officers. The state nodal officers is of course the officers of Jharkhand state JMFDC. I'm just forgetting the full form. So now, he is the employee of that particular agency, which is the implementing agency in Jharkhand. Now he has to check through it. So when I contact him, that particular gentleman says that we can't do much because ideally the verification has to be done physically by the district welfare officers. Now again, I cross-check with district welfare officers. They say we don't have much hand. So in block, there is one block welfare officer. We don't have much block welfare officers. We are taking help from supervisors. So we are just clearing it whatever we can do. Now it's now then after the state nodal officer, it goes to Ministry of Minority Affairs. Now here also a cross-check can be done, because in the National Scholarship Portal, if anyone is just skimming the data, they will find, if any person has a knowledge of demography, a Lakra cannot be a Muslim, and Oraon cannot be a Muslim, Parsi. But these are some of the things which can easily be checked and just stopped. And then it comes to DBT. Of course, there are problems in Aadhaar and how wrong data was, let's say the 25-year-old person's Aadhaar card, he might have his own birth date, but how come a younger age Aadhaar data was put in that? That is a big question, how the systemic corruption is working here. But of course, one of the panelists said that after the fieldwork, they found out the unawareness, which I also said, people are not aware. People are not aware. The amount of money that the government is spending on inclusion and to bring everyone in the social welfare area, they have also to work on creating awareness. Because I met a Muslim family in one of the villages. He was eligible, but he was not a victim of this fraud, but he was a very poor, he came from poor household. His father, 60-year-old father, was bedridden for 3 years. His mother is a tailor and she stitches clothes, and in the last 1 month she got only 300 rupees to run the household. Now imagine what this 5,700 rupees will do to that particular family.
Correct.
And that is the family which is not getting the money, who ideally should get the money.
Correct. In fact, that's exactly the point that I wanted to raise with Sudesh Verma, because this needs to be a bigger concern, Mr. Verma. One aspect is, like you said, that you do an investigation, you find the people who are guilty, who scammed the system, and you punish them. The other aspect is to do a larger check. There may be thousands of such people, Mr. Sudesh Verma, who are dependent on the schemes that your government has designed and is extremely proud of. But if they're not working on ground and reaching the right people, then it's of no help.
You see, this story points out that the scheme is not reaching the beneficiary. And if it doesn't reach the beneficiary, it definitely means that it is bad in terms of helping the poor people, bad in terms of governance, bad in terms of politics also. So literally, when we send some schemes down to the state to implement that, then literally we expect that there will be no scam. If the scam happens, this is a case of cheating. Because it's not a case of, it could be a case of impersonation. It could be a case where, money has been transferred to it. We don't know. We have to get into details of that. You see, Tanvi, you know that the biggest fraud in the world that happens is credit card. But credit card has not stopped. Have you heard about the Jamtara connection, which is in Jharkhand? Jamtara connection, ask any policeman in Delhi, they will tell you that the way fraud is being done. So don't blame the IT. Don't throw out baby with the bathwater. We have to correct the system. For that, action needs to be taken. And only when action needs to be taken, people will not cheat. Otherwise, this is something which is happening in every field. And that is why we want to create a better system. If someone has a better suggestion, of course the government will implement. But as of now, Aadhaar, taking iris and fingerprints and bank account, I'm talking about farmers and all those poor people who have their bank account, benefit schemes are going directly into their scheme, their account, and not a single penny is being siphoned off. There could be loopholes somewhere, like this cheating that has been done. So we must take action against them. We'll wait for the government to give a report on that. And if they expect any cooperation from the central government, definitely the central government should do it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because, Professor Ravi Srivastava, what this shows is that just because there is technology available, just because you are moving towards a more digitized era, where you have biometrics and fingerprints, of people, and that it doesn't mean that system cannot be breached, that corruption cannot seep into that system, because we are looking at a possibility where hundreds and thousands of people may have been fooled into giving their biometrics, and those may be used for multiple welfare schemes, and nobody will even realize that.
Absolutely. I think, Avani made two very important points. One is the question of awareness. Lack of literacy, lack of education, lack of awareness. It's also lack of infrastructure, proper infrastructure. Even schools don't have the right kind of infrastructure to be able to deal with data systems, to be able to upload the kind of information that is needed and so on. And all this leads to outsourcing. All this leads to, using brokers and so on and so forth. And this then actually leads to a breakdown of the system which is sought to be created. But at the root of it is another question. One is ineligible beneficiaries. Whenever large number of ineligible beneficiaries either exist or are sought to be created, then somebody is benefiting from that. Either it is a scholarship scheme, or whether it is Manrega, or whether it is any other PDS, any other scheme, somebody is benefiting from it. It may be the ineligible beneficiaries who are given 50% of that share, and the rest the broker keeps, but the brokers and the system of brokerage, which exists from bottom to top, is benefiting. And the other most serious issue is the exclusion of the poor. And again, Avani has hit the nail on the head by saying that the poorest get excluded. They get excluded in multiple ways. They also get excluded because of the way technology is used. Remember, we live in a country, Tanvi, where all of us keep candles at home, we keep emergency lights, we use generators, and we have a power system. But the poor in Jharkhand has to rely only on that DBT, the Aadhaar card and the bank linkage. And that often enough, even if everything else is right, it doesn't work for him. So he or she gets excluded from the system. The POS machine doesn't work. The thermal roll, which is supposed to be there, does not work. And it leads to systemic exclusion of the poor who need to be helped and for whom these schemes are being created. And as I said at the beginning, the first point for us is to realize both these ends of the problem.
Correct.
That systematic corruption continues to exist, and systemic exclusion also continues to exist within the DBT system. If we don't acknowledge this, we will never address the problem.
Yes, and that's what's so, distressing to me, Professor Srivastava, because, these schemes are meant to help the most vulnerable, the most poor or backward, population of our country, to support them and to empower them. And they are actually the ones who are not being able to get the benefit. One would hope that things would have gotten better. Some of these inefficiencies and corrupt systems would have been weeded out by 2020. But I guess it's a constant battle, irrespective of which government, irrespective of what systems come into place. Which is why I want to go to Professor Vallabh again, Professor Gaurav Vallabh. Where does the accountability lie? Even if it's a center scheme, usually it's your state administration on ground implementing, carrying out the work. Where does the accountability lie?
Ma'am, I had a very fundamental question, and Abhishek may answer this. Abhishek, what is the guarantee that the similar type of school scholarship fraud is not happening in Bihar or not happening in Uttar Pradesh? Or
no, I was going to raise the same.
Please. Or not happening in the state of Karnataka? So this is a systemic issue, Tanvi. You can't say that nobody is aware. And Abhishek, in his report itself, because I read the 2-3 times, Abhishek, your report, had highlighted the role of Jharkhand State Minority Finance Development Corporation. Who was heading that JSM? I don't want to politicize today because this is the taxpayers' money. This is not the individual money of X party or Y party. This is the taxpayers' money which has to be utilized for the scholarship, which has to be utilized for the PM Kisan. What is the guarantee that similar type of fraud, similar type of scam is not happening in PM Kisan in Odisha? Had we done any investigation when there was a fraud happened in Maharashtra? What was the steps taken by the government of India? The government of India was silent. When the similar type of fraud happened in Tamil Nadu, what initiatives were taken by government of India? They were silent. It means they are hand in glove in this corruption. They are hand in gloves in this particular scam. That's hence proved. I don't want to politicize this.
But you just did.
This is a basic
You keep saying you don't want to politicize it, Professor Gaurav Vallabh, but you've done that with every single sentence that you've just made here. Let Abhishek come in and respond to what you asked, and then Sudesh Verma can also.
I raised a very fundamental question.
Okay, Abhishek.
I'm not blaming anyone.
Yeah,
I am asking
and
a
you are
fundamental
right.
question.
And you are right, Gaurav Vallabh. If it can happen in Maharashtra in 2017, who's to say it's not happening in Maharashtra even now? Who's to say it's not happening in Chhattisgarh or in any other state? You're right there, which is why I'm saying a national alarm needs to go off today. Abhishek, go ahead, please. The question that Gaurav Vallabh asked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was going to raise the same question that, Jharkhand, 61 crores of the scholarship money was sent in one of the scheme. This is, I think, the smallest scheme, pre-matric scholarship scheme. There are states where rupees 200 crore has been sent, this particular disbursed. The extent of it in Jharkhand may be small, but, annually rupees 1400 crore has been disbursed this year for pre-matric scholarship scheme. And people tell me that on ground, the same modus operandi exists in all different states. Now, pick any school, the names are there in the National Scholarship Portal. Pick any school in any state, and any reporter should or anyone should go and check, verify whether the school owners know it or not, and we'll get a clear picture out of it. But yes, as I said earlier, this is the corruption is bottoms up, meaning the gangs operate on the ground, and there will be one or two person in the office authorities who connives with these people, and then the entire scam runs, because this is completely under the radar. People, you will never come out of it in the fact just because the amount is small, 5,700 and 10,700. So yes, I mean, even in this particular government, I'm sure if there is a check in Jharkhand right now of the forms already verified, there will be a lot of problem that would come out. So I'm not going against any particular government, but yes, during the last year there were a lot of irregularity that was found and reported by us.
Well, let me in fact add to that, and you, as you bring those details from Jharkhand, like we were saying, a similar scam was just a few weeks ago exposed in Tamil Nadu for the PM Kisan Yojana scam. The entire focus of the authorities at that point of time when they were investigating the case was, one, to see how many people in how many districts, the extent of the spread, and to get the money back. And that's the dangerous part. If you say, I'm going to identify that these 50 people were involved, these many from the banks, these many from the technology company that took the data and shared the data when they were not supposed to, or kept the data with them when they were not supposed to, these many from the local administration and the bureaucrats or the government officials who were corrupt and who colluded. And people, of course, unaware people, farmers or other poor people who were fooled, whose details were taken, they were given a part of the money, rest of it was pocketed, they were held responsible. So we actually saw a situation where the authorities were focusing on holding those poor people responsible, Avni Kapoor, and taking the money back, trying to figure out how to get those 200 crore rupees back into the government system, rather than looking at a larger problem and trying to figure out how to plug in these loopholes to stop the siphoning of funds. Do you believe that there itself there is a problem in the way we are approaching the entire issue?
Answer this.
That exactly what you said is critical. And I wanted to bring the discussion back in terms of just what can be done, right? Because as you said, what currently is often the go-to isn't really working. We have institutional mechanisms in our country that actually play that role. I think Abhishek did a great job, and as he said, media people across different states should do this verification exercise. One of the things that we as Accountability Initiative go out and do, and often asked by government to do that, is to play that independent evaluator kind of role. But even within the government setup, we have institutional mechanisms. We have the CAG, for instance, which does ask these questions as well. The one thing that I would encourage is that often we focus again so much on compliance, and as we were discussing earlier, that exclusion question becomes important. So let's also look at who all should be eligible but weren't getting it as well. Similarly, you have every scheme has a concurrent monitoring system as well. The Niti Aayog has its own monitoring system. Why are we not using them enough, or is there a need to strengthen that as well? Because there is no substitute for independent evaluations. And lastly, I wanted to just end with one thing that, again, a tool that is mentioned in every scheme guideline but often isn't used is social accountability, tools like social audits. Yeah. Abhishek mentioned that it's ground up, etc. I think that's where the tools such as the social audit, and we've seen it working in NREGS, and as I said, every single scheme has it. It becomes such an important and powerful enabler where civil society organizations, the people who are actually impacted, and everyone comes together to try and actually find this corruption and ensure that people who deserve the entitlements get it. Yeah. So we're all in it for the same good reasons. No one is trying to do fault finding. I think the eventual aim is that people who deserve their entitlement should get their due.
Oh yes, absolutely. Sudesh Verma, you wanted to make a point. I am out of time, but very quickly, go ahead.
You see, I don't want to get into politics of Gaurav Vallabhji because he's very angry. I don't know why. We are for a better system. And if such stories help us to create a better system, we are all for it. You see, the NGOs, the media, they all have to highlight. There has to be social audit. In every district, you have the list. So kindly figure out, because I'm sure that it won't be, maybe some people have done it. Maybe Abhishek reads those people. And it's good, because we must correct the system. That is how the government works. That is how the society has to work. It has to come with better accountability. So we want to create a system. If Gaurav Vallabhji is in power and if he doesn't take action, then I would ask him why you are not acting. Go investigate, find the culprits, tell us how it has happened so that we also know we can fix the system together, isn't it? You have a different government in Jharkhand. It doesn't mean that we are not with you. We are with you in good governance.
Tanvi, if I can take just half a second.
Yes. Yes, sure. Gaurav Vallabh.
So, as I told you, I'm not going to have one-to-one rebuttal.
Yes.
But he raised a point of social audit. I'm asking him, when there was a Raghuvar Das government in Jharkhand, how many social audits you did, Mr. I just slipped his name, from BJP. How many social audits you did? Can you share the viewers of the Mirror now that how many social audits you had done? So don't mislead.
Okay.
Please, please, sir. I had not disturbed in between you. My question or my sentence is very simple. Don't mislead. When something had happened in Tamil Nadu, what action was initiated by Government of India? What action was initiated by Agriculture Ministry when there was a clear-cut fraud and scam in PM Kisan? The same might be a fraud in the transfer of 500
Okay. Fair enough.
Pandemic.
Gentlemen, fair enough. I'm out of time. Let me just come in here and say very clearly the point that Congress Party is raising right now is that, okay, even if action hasn't happened in the past, what action is the centre going to take? And I think even individual states need to take right now. Individual states need to figure out where they've gone wrong in implementing these schemes, even if they are centrally funded schemes. The centre needs to wake up. At the end of the day, it's their schemes at stake. They have owned to the idea of announcing these schemes for the benefit of the poor, the vulnerable and the backward in our country. And if the money is not reaching the right people, then the central government needs to take the initiative as well on finding out and fixing these loopholes. A big thank you to everybody, especially to Abhishek and his entire team at Indian Express for bringing us this story. And I'm sure there'll be more in the coming days in the series, investigation series, that we'll also keenly follow. But let me very quickly give you some interesting insights from this investigation itself. Here is why it's a problem. A 28-year-old homemaker in Giridih in Ranchi, a couple in their 30s, a 47-year-old wife of a tailor in Lohardaga. These are the kinds of people who actually got the money in their bank accounts, direct benefit transfer of a scheme which is meant for scholarship for pre-metric minority students. None of them are pre-metric minority students, but they all got the money. All of them say they're even unaware of how this has happened. They too have been victims of this scam. There are several students across at least 6 districts that the Indian Express looked into in Jharkhand itself who have had their Aadhaar cards and fingerprints taken, completely unaware of what was happening. The scholarships have been disbursed in their names, but these students say they only received a fraction of the amount. They didn't even get the entire amount. In Dhanbad, in the Indira Gandhi Memorial High School, there are 3 rooms, 80 students and no hostel. But according to the official documentation for this scheme, scholarships have been given to 323 hostel students just in the year gone by, 2019-2020. Look at the extent of the scam and in various ways that it is happening. In Lohardaga, Rajia Khatun, whose husband is a tailor, was asked to give her bank account details, her Aadhaar details, her fingerprint, and she did all that. She was told money will come from an account in Saudi Arabia and that she can keep half and share the rest with these people who are helping her out. This is how people are being fooled. People who are the legitimate beneficiaries are not even getting the full benefit, are being misled. And if it is so easy to take their data and scam the system, imagine where all it may be happening in our country today. Imagine for how many of the government schemes, state or center, it may be happening as we speak. This is the warning. This is the issue that I flagged off even the last time when the Tamil Nadu scam was exposed. And I reiterated simply for the fact that the governments across the country, from district to state and central level, need to wake up and start investigating various schemes and documentation available there. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.